Hey M CARBO brother, I'm Chris Nelson, president of M CARBO. Really excited to introduce the Benjamin Trail NP2 trigger spring kit for your air rifle. Yes, I said it, your air rifle. Enough of you guys requested it, so we made it. And that's a testament to us listening to you guys. If you want something done, if you need a trigger spring kit or some sort of part for a common factory problem, we're always listening. We're taking your ideas, we're writing them down, and we're even following up with you guys to let you know when we make them. Enough requested this spring kit. It works for a ton of different Crosman Benjamin Air Rifles, as that company made a numerous amount of variations and models for these sort of air rifles, so this trigger assembly is the same. We got a nearly 70% trigger pull reduction, phenomenal trigger pull reduction and upgrade. You've got the Pro Kit, which will replace all the hardware, give you shims, grease, the whole 9 yards, really give you that performance, that edge, exactly what you're looking for. Then we've got the basic kit, which will get you in the ballpark. It'll get you that nice reduction, but it won't give you as smooth and crisp and wobble free of a trigger pull as that Pro Kit's gonna give you. Let's jump on over to the tabletop, put this baby in. Now let's go ahead and check our firearms together, make sure they're clear. This is a break barrel rifle, so we'll have to break the barrel here, inspect the chamber. Chamber's clear, rifle's clear. Now we need to go ahead and pull the trigger to release tension on the trigger assembly. Parts and tools needed for this build: the Benjamin Trail NP2 trigger spring kit by M CARBO, either the basic kit or the Pro Kit, your choice. A 1/16 inch punch, blue 242 Loctite, precision Phillips head screwdriver, flathead screwdriver, standard Phillips head screwdriver, hammer, block of wood with a hole in it. As always guys, make sure you're wearing iPro. This installation we're using a Benjamin Trail NP2 air rifle. Now just take notice the way this safety curves inward towards the trigger. This is a style of trigger assembly that this spring kit will work on. Just want to point that out before we get started. Before we get started, let's see what kind of factory trigger pull we're working with. 5 pounds, 5.4 ounces. Let's take one more to confirm. 5 pounds, 3.4 ounces. Now, although we're using the Benjamin Trail NP2 for this installation video, there's a ton of different varieties of Crosman Benjamin air rifles that are compatible with this kit. That company made a ton of different models and variations, but they all usually use the same trigger assembly. It's common in manufacturing, so you'll see that a ton of different options are out there to install this kit. Let's go ahead and begin by removing the stock from the barrel. So you'll take your Phillips head screwdriver, you'll remove these two 4-end takedown screws here, and then there's this rear takedown screw back here that we'll remove. Let's go ahead and do that now. A real problem with these factory screws: one, you're going to have a ton of Loctite on there that you're going to have to remove if you want to reinstall these, but two, they really tend to strip out. These are just generic Phillips head hardware screws, nothing special. Be careful if you're going to go ahead and insert these back into your firearm. You've got to clean these up really good. I'd highly recommend the Pro Kit so you don't have to worry about that, and you'll be able to remove these screws in the future without stripping and galling them, and also affecting the internal threads is your main concern. That's what you really want to be careful of. Alright, so you'll notice the long takedown screws in the rear and the two short 4-end takedown screws are up front. Now you'll see too, there's a ton of factory blue Loctite on there. They're all galled and kind of stripped and nasty looking. These are just generic household grade Phillips head screws. Nothing special about these. They're going to strip, they're going to wear. Let's go ahead and set these aside. Now let's go ahead and separate the stock from the barrel. Go ahead and pull up on it. Alright, set that aside. Go ahead and set the insert aside as well. That's going to drop in right here where that rear takedown screw is, like so. So we'll set it aside just like that, and we'll focus on the trigger assembly. Now we're zoomed in here on the trigger assembly. Just want to point out this side-to-side play we've got on the trigger. We've got some shims in the Pro Kit, stainless steel shims that'll eliminate that play. So let's go ahead and get your block of wood with the hole in it and position that pin, that trigger hinge pin, over the hole. Now we're going to take this flathead screwdriver and push off the E-clip. Now this E-clip will fly away on you, so position your finger on the opposite side of it to catch it. It also helps too to be in a clutter-free area, because these things, it's almost their job to fly away on you, especially if you have to, like this one, we're likely going to have to pry it off a little bit at a time, and then it gets to that point where it just springs off into the atmosphere. There we go. Alright, so take your time with that. You don't want to rush it. They're too easy to lose and you'll spend a lot of time looking for it. So we'll set that E-clip aside. take our 1/16 inch punch or any punch that'll fit in this hole. A 1/8 inch punch will work fine, and push right through on that hinge pin, right? And we're going to pay attention as we pull it all out here. Okay, some spring tension under there naturally. So here's your hinge pin. Set that aside. Let's pull up on the trigger. Okay, set that aside. Now you can see the sear right here, and you can see your trigger return spring down here. Helps if you've got a magnetic tip on that screwdriver. Pull it right up and out. Okay, simple as that. So now we're going to go ahead and replace the trigger return spring and a few other of the hardware components as well. Now we've got our factory hardware over here. We've got the trigger removed from the trigger assembly. Let's go ahead and open up our Benjamin Trail NP2 trigger spring kit, the Pro Kit by M CARBO, and take a look at what we got in there. All right, make sure you don't lose anything. There's a ton of stuff in there. We'll go ahead and count it out. So you've got 2 Allen keys. You've got your synthetic grease with PTFE. We've got our 3 stock assembly screws. We've got our pre-travel adjustment set screw. And we've got our lighter trigger return spring. And then we've got our 2 stainless steel shims to get rid of that trigger play, that side-to-side wobble. All right, so let's go ahead and start comparing everything. So we've got the trigger spring kit here by M CARBO, the Pro Kit down here. So let's go ahead and take a look at this trigger return spring from M CARBO, and then the factory spring here on my left. So we'll go ahead and we'll get them side by side, and we'll do a little springiness test. So you can see how much springier the M CARBO spring is on the right. All right, so definitely some differences there between the trigger return springs. So that's good. We want a lighter trigger pull. So we'll go ahead and set those down. Then we'll go ahead and we'll take a look at these improved screws here. Now these are black oxide industrial grade screws to replace the, and they're really easy to tell apart. You can throw them in together actually because they're all galled and messed up. So these screws that got the blue Loctite on them, they're all galled and messed up. These are the factory screws. They're the Phillips head screws, just general hardware screws. Nothing special, and they will strip and they will gall. But I get it, they didn't intend on people taking them apart either. So we've got some industrial strength, black oxide coated premium screws here to replace the generic household hardware screws here. Plus, when you reinstall these, we're going to install them with fresh Loctite. You're not going to have to clean them up and all that stuff. And you can see how bad they're galled and stripped out. Terrible. So we'll go ahead and we'll set the generic hardware screws aside. We'll set the industrial grade black oxide premium screws down here in the Pro Kit. Now you've got a matching 3mm Allen key in the kit for these screws, so you don't have to worry about trying to get the right Allen key. Now we've also got the same industrial grade pre-travel adjustment set screw. Now the beauty behind this is you've got more range of adjustment with this set screw than you do this button head screw here, this household hardware Phillips head button head screw. So we're going to go ahead and get that screw out of there, and we've got our premium black oxide coated industrial grade set screw. It's going to offer us a little more range of adjustment, so you're going to get all that pre-travel out of that trigger, which is nice. So go ahead and we'll install those here in a second. And then we've got our stainless steel shims, which are great. It's going to get rid of that side-to-side trigger wobble, and we'll put them here on the side. And that synthetic grease with PTFE, that's great to have. We're going to put it on the sides of the trigger just to increase the lubricity, and also helps aid in the installation. It's going to keep those shims right where we want them on the side of that trigger when we drop it right in. We'll also put some of that synthetic grease in the top of this channel here on the trigger as well. So we'll go ahead and get started putting all that in. Now let's go ahead and finish the disassembly. This is when you need that precision Phillips head screwdriver. Go ahead and remove that factory pre-travel adjustment screw. Now, if you don't have a precision Phillips head screwdriver, you might be able to get away with just using a really small Phillips head just to get that out of there. And you can see how this screw is stripped as well. It's got that old blue Loctite on it. So that's something we're going to need to go ahead and replace. Just generic hardware. So we're going to replace it with some industrial grade hardware now. So we've got the M CARBO black oxide industrial grade set screw here, going to give us a wider range of pre-travel adjustment, which is going to be phenomenal. Now go ahead and take your 1.5mm Allen key that's included in the Pro Kit, and let's get this set screw started. We're going to wait on that blue Loctite just for a minute because it dries pretty quickly. So we'll go ahead and we'll thread this all the way up, as you can see I'm doing here, with the idea, you can see it's pretty much flush with the top of the trigger like that. What we'll do is we'll put a drop of Loctite up here and we'll back it back down as we adjust the pre-travel. So that'll get us in position. It'll be the fastest, quickest way to adjust it before that Loctite dries and it's stuck there. So we'll go ahead and set the trigger aside for just a second. Now go ahead and grab your M CARBO trigger return spring. Get your magnetic screwdriver, it's always helpful. Use that to pull up on the sear right here. Hold the sear in place. And I want to make sure you can see just fine, but there's a tip right down in there. That's where the trigger return spring is going to set and locate. So we're going to go ahead and slide it right in there. You can see it located real nicely on that tab. Now we'll drop our sear right on top of it, and there's a tab on that sear that'll hold it in place. So there's a tab top and bottom keeping that trigger return spring engaged. Okay, good. Now go ahead and open up your synthetic grease with PTFE. PTFE is Teflon. All right, go ahead and get a little bit on your finger there. Stuff is great because it's going to help you pick up the stainless steel shims just like that. We'll go ahead and we'll put that synthetic grease on both sides. All right, really helps with the lubricity. Go ahead and drop that shim right in place. There we go, all lined up. We'll do the same on the other side. Okay. Get that synthetic grease on there. Then take the other shim and drop it right in place. Get it lined up. All right. Now we'll go ahead and put a little bit of grease in this channel up here. Increase the lubricity, giving us a nice, smooth, clean trigger pull. All right, nice. Now we're going to go ahead and put a little bit of Loctite on this pre-travel adjustment screw here. So go ahead and grab your blue 242 Loctite, put a little dab on those threads. All right, we got our blue Loctite there on the set screw. We've got our shims in place. Now we're going to go ahead and drop it right into the trigger assembly. Line up them holes. Be careful not to push those shims out of place. It helps to take your 1.5 millimeter Allen key and use that to help line up those shims. And once they're in place, go ahead and push your hinge pin right through the trigger. Then go ahead and push your hinge pin from the back side. That way there you can see from the top whether you're lined up or not. And then manipulate that trigger and push on that hinge pin. Use that 1.5 millimeter Allen key to make sure we've got the holes lined up properly. Helps if you kind of spin it around in there, make sure the shims are in place. We can visually see the shims from above, and we've got good clearance. Now we'll take our hinge pin, put it in from the back side, push up on it, and we're going to take a look at that hole, and we're going to push down on the trigger so that we can get that hinge pin all the way through. Now there's going to be a lot of tension there because we've got that pre-travel adjustment screw adjusted all the way up. So we'll go ahead and now install our E-clip. Take your flathead, go ahead and drive it the rest of the way home. You hear that audible snap. That means you're in business and you're good to go. Now let's go ahead and adjust that pre-travel before that blue Loctite dries up. Take your 1.5 millimeter Allen key and then just back it off just a little bit at a time. Now moving that trigger at the same time every now and again to check the engagement. You want it to be, there you go. There you go, so it almost got loose right there. You can tell right away because you can see that sear start flopping around. So you want there to be positive engagement, but you don't want it to have any negative effects on the trigger. So it just needs to be just right where it's touching, it's positively engaged, but it's not overly engaging that sear. So you're gonna back it off until you see it kind of fall out of place there and wiggle, and then you're gonna give it a nice little turn and make sure it's good and snug. Right up there against the sear, positive engagement, but not overly engaged. All right, look at that. Nice. Okay, let's put the rest of this together. Now go ahead and grab your stock. Make sure you've got that steel takedown screw insert for the rear takedown screw dropped into the stock like so. Then we'll go ahead and take our barrel and trigger assembly and drop it right into the stock. Just like that. Make sure it's nice and even. Now we're gonna go ahead and install the front and rear takedown screws. So we'll go ahead and grab the two shorter front takedown screws right here and put a drop of Loctite on each of them, the blue 242. We'll go ahead and get these started on both sides. Drop them into place, then take your 3mm Allen key and go ahead and get them going. You just want to get them somewhat hand tight. You don't want to snug them down yet. We want to tighten them all up evenly at the end. All right, those are snug. Now we'll go ahead and take the rear takedown screw, the longer one, put some blue 242 Loctite on there. We'll go ahead and drop it in that hole through the stock. So that's that most rearward hole in the stock. You'll see there's another small hole there where you can adjust your pre-travel adjustment. All right, so they're all nice and hand tight. Now let's go ahead and snug them down. Really great hardware. You don't have to worry about those button head screws stripping out. Look at that, nice. Industrial grade black oxide hardware. Beautiful. And this is what I was talking about here. If you still need to make an adjustment to your pre-travel, it's right there, it's accessible, just like it is from the factory. All right, now let's go ahead and test out this new trigger pull. Now that our air rifles are back together, let's go ahead and do a quick function check. Make sure everything's working properly. Place the weapon on safe, pull the trigger, nothing, good. Place it on fire, pull the trigger. Woo! That's a real nice trigger pull. Let's go ahead and test this trigger pull, see what we got. Let's see what kind of modified trigger pull reading we get. Woo! 1 pound, 14.5 ounces. That is nice. Let's take one more to confirm. Whew. Man, that is absolutely outstanding. 1 pound, 14.4 ounces. Phenomenal. Well, there you have it, guys. A sub 2 pound trigger pull for your air rifle. It is phenomenal considering what we started with. 5.5 pounds, ridiculous. Now we've got a real light, crisp, clean, fun trigger pull. I'm excited about this. I want to get your feedback. I mean, I love a good trigger. It doesn't matter what it is. Regular firearm, air rifle. A lot of guys use these. These are a lot of fun, gives you a lot of different options as well. You know, that sound is pretty light. Ton of different advantages with an air rifle. With this sort of power and capacity and capability, it's very quiet, no signature whatsoever. So if you need to do a little bit of varmint hunting or something, get rid of something in the backyard, you're in the city limits, might be worth your time. Oh, that is phenomenal. Thank you, M CARBO brother, for your ideas and your support. And as always, happy shooting.